From the moment Lewis Hamilton stepped into a Ferrari cockpit for the first time, it was clear that every aspect of his performance would be analyzed with microscopic precision. As the most successful driver in Formula One history joined the sport's most iconic team, the scrutiny over every radio message, tactical move, and final result was inevitable. Ferrari fans had hoped that the union between two Formula One legends would resemble a honeymoon rather than a nightmare marked by dismal performances, most of them caused by a car, the SF-25, that seems to have rolled out of a used car dealership rather than the factory of the sport's most iconic team. This intense attention was evident from Lewis Hamilton's very first race with the Maranello team at the Albert Park circuit in Australia. Even minor radio exchanges, such as those regarding the use of the K1 engine mode, gained viral traction. Observers noted how Hamilton courteously peppered his messages to new race engineer Riccardo Adami with the word please. A week later in China, confusion unfolded when the world broadcast feed missed a crucial part of a message in which the Briton had offered to yield position to Charles Leclerc. Without this context, subsequent radio exchanges painted an inaccurate picture, suggesting Lewis Hamilton had resisted a team orders decision. The pressure only intensified in Miami, where Ferrari delivered one of its weakest performances of the 2025 Formula One season. Sweltering South Florida heat combined with poor pace led to a post-race controversy as team radio messages spiraled into a heated debate over intra-team cooperation and strategy. The core issue for Ferrari in Miami was not team orders or communication. It was a fundamental lack of performance. Strategy miscues and driver frustration were symptoms of a car that simply wasn't fast enough across the weekend. A quick look at the results told the story. Charles Leclerc crossed the line in 7th place, a staggering 57 seconds behind race winner Oscar Piastri, while Hamilton followed in 8th. Rather than competing with Max Verstappen's Red Bull or the Works Mercedes team for podium contention, Ferrari was locked in a midfield struggle. Astonishingly, they were left fending off Carlos Sainz in the slower Williams, while Alex Albon brought the sister car home in 5th, 9 seconds ahead of Charles Leclerc. For a team that entered the Miami Grand Prix just 14 points adrift of defending champions McLaren in the constructors' standings, the result was yet another sobering reality check. The situation grew tense midway through the race as Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton's strategies began to converge. The Monegasque driver had started 8th on medium tires, while Hamilton, launching from P12, had gone with hards. By lap 32, their races began to overlap. By lap 38, they were battling nose to tail. Lewis Hamilton had gained ground through a well-timed pit stop under a virtual safety car, switching from hards to mediums. Charles Leclerc, in contrast, made his switch from mediums to hards under green flag conditions. On lap 34, the two Ferrari cars performed a slick double pass on Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc made the initial lunge at turn 1, opening the inside line for Hamilton to follow through. At that point, Lewis Hamilton was clearly the quicker of the two, aided by fresher, softer tires. However, running in Charles Leclerc's dirty air was degrading his rubber and hampering his pace. He believed he could catch Andrea Kimi Antonelli, who was 5 seconds up the road in 6th, if he were allowed through. Hamilton informed the pit wall that he was damaging his tires while stuck behind his teammate, and questioned whether the plan was to have him sit there the whole race. Riccardo Adami told him the team would get back to him. Ferrari's radio communication delays are a familiar frustration. While drivers demand swift decisions amid chaotic conditions, the pit wall often stalls. Concerned that a position swap might cost both cars time and allow Carlos Sainz, just 1.5 seconds behind, to attack, Ferrari hesitated. Riccardo Adami eventually responded that the team wished to retain the DRS advantage for Charles Leclerc and instructed both cars to maintain position. Eventually, on lap 38, Ferrari ordered the swap. However, by then, Lewis Hamilton's frustration had become evident. He remarked that the situation was not an example of good teamwork, referencing how he had moved aside for Charles Leclerc in China. As Riccardo Adami confirmed the switch, the Briton sarcastically suggested that the team might as well have a tea break. Despite the delay, Lewis Hamilton managed to halve the gap to Kimi Antonelli to 2.5 seconds over the next 12 laps. However, the initial tire advantage diminished, and by lap 44, the two Ferraris were again within a second of each other. Charles Leclerc began voicing the same concerns that his Maranello teammate had earlier. After the race, Charles Leclerc expressed that the swap had not been thoroughly discussed beforehand. He explained that managing his tires became more complicated in the altered scenario, and he had not expected Carlos Sainz to close in so rapidly. He admitted that the situation highlighted a need for the team to be more robust and decisive in managing such scenarios. Lewis Hamilton echoed these sentiments, noting that the stint behind Charles Leclerc had compromised his tire life. While unsure if he could have ultimately passed Kimi Antonelli, he believed a quicker decision could have helped. He compared the ideal scenario to a past Mercedes moment with Valtteri Bottas, where a position swap was later reversed based on performance outcomes. The former Mercedes driver accuses the team of being sluggish when it comes to decision-making, which seems to be a chronic issue that was just as evident under previous managements, including Mattia Binotto and Maurizio Arrivabene. It often seems that before any call is made, a bureaucratic process kicks in, reminiscent of Italy's own difficult period, serving only to waste precious time. Lewis saw through it quickly and didn't hesitate to let the team have it, calling out what he views as a slow-to-react and overly passive operation. Ultimately, Lewis Hamilton acknowledged that Ferrari's lack of pace was the underlying issue. Whether or not a place was gained or lost between 6th and 7th made little difference. What mattered was that Ferrari was simply too far off the leaders. Lewis Hamilton addressed the tone of his radio messages, clarifying that his comments were not made in anger, but rather out of urgency. He pointed out that while he wasn't swearing, he was emphatic, urging the team to make decisions more swiftly. The 7-time Formula One world champion noted that during the race emotions run high and drivers are processing information rapidly while physically battling the car. When informed that his team radio had become the most entertaining part of the race broadcast, the British driver laughed and remarked that at least it had remained PG-rated. He reaffirmed his competitive spirit, stating that he would never apologize for being a fighter or for wanting more from himself and the team. Although he expressed disappointment in the team's execution, he emphasized that he held no issues with the Monegasque or Ferrari leadership, and reiterated that the true problem was the car's lack of competitiveness. After the race, team principal Frederic Vasseur met with Hamilton in the Ferrari hospitality suite. The two, who have shared a close professional relationship for over 20 years, discussed the decision-making process during the race. According to the Italian side's team boss, the goal of the conversation was not to mitigate public perception, but to ensure mutual understanding and maintain internal trust. Frederic Vasseur explained that the team's hesitation in ordering the swap was due to uncertainty over whether Lewis Hamilton's pace was genuinely superior or simply aided by the DRS effect. In his view, the delay lasted only around a lap and a half, time he believed was necessary to make an informed call. The French manager dismissed the idea that the position swap was the main story of the race. In his assessment, the real issue was how Ferrari ended up nearly a minute behind McLaren. The finishing order of 6th or 7th between teammates, he argued, was secondary to the broader performance deficit. Lewis Hamilton, recounting the post-race discussion, said he had reassured Frederic Vasseur not to take the radio comments personally. He explained that much of what was said was driven by sarcasm and the intense pressure of racing, stressing that no offense was intended. For Lewis Hamilton, the takeaway was clear. Ferrari must be quicker, not just in lap times but in making crucial strategic calls.